going to go up to the File menu and say New Project. And when the template dialog box shows up, it's taking a little second there, we're going to go to make sure Visual C# is selected, console application. Now we eventually will stop using console applications and just use regular C# classes when we switch over to Unity, but for right now we're going to stay in the non-graphical world just to make it easier to learn the basics. Down here in the name, I'm just going to call it IO for input output. Again, I've got console C# application there in the list. Browse, press the browse button to move it someplace that'll be easier for you to find. So that would be a network drive maybe. You won't turn this one in today, you'll actually make a second project, so it's up to you if it needs to be in the documents folder on the network, but putting the network safer if you want to go back and look at it as a set of notes. Press OK. And Visual Studio will do some of the basics for you that we've done all along. It says which classes are being used as libraries. It's a program class, and here's our main method. Okay, again, in a one-class project, the main method is where everything is made and instantiated and comes to life. So I'm going to make some variables here. I'm going to say string number 1. And I'm going to choose to declare these variables all on the same line. And if they're the same type of variable, they can be on the same line. Just don't forget my Java users that are transitioning into this course, string is lowercase in the C# language. Your variable type should turn blue if it's typed correctly. Blue just means in the C# language those are reserved words that cannot be used as the names of variables or functions. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect data from the user. What did I just type in green? That's a comment. It has no function whatsoever in the execution of the program. It simply just is an internal note for you and I as programmers. Alright, I will say console dot write line, and for a lot of you that maybe don't type as quickly as you would like, if you arrow up and down in the suggestions, it'll help you type something faster. Speeds up the task a little bit. And then we'll say enter number 1. Then I will say number 1 equals console.readline. So let's talk about what just happened here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment to the right side of each one of these lines as a note for you long term to know what the heck each line is for. So this one here is saying it's collecting string data. Now we've talked about variable types in here, and we said that strings means it has no mathematical value. But you and I just declared variables that we are calling numbers. Here's what you have to understand. The function that we are using here, readline, it will only recognize numbers and letters as just letters, what we refer to as a string. So what it did is it's going to collect, say, the number 5, and it almost treats the number 5 like it's the letter S. It has no mathematical value, can't be used in the equation. So we're going to have to convert that number as well. So we'll deal with that in a later step, but just know right now it has collected the number, but it doesn't actually see it as a mathematical number. I'm going to copy these 2 lines and paste them down below so I don't have to type the same logic again, and then just update the prompt, update my variable name. And that just saved me a bunch of time and 2 lines of code that I didn't have to completely type from scratch. I'll do that for the 3rd number. Again, update my prompt, update my variable name. If you don't update your variable name and say you had 2 number 2s, the second prompt is going to overwrite that variable and ignore the first prompt's data. It's really important that you do make sure that each variable does have a unique name when you're assigning data to it. Our next job here is to convert string numbers to actual numbers so that they can be used in an equation. So I'm going to make some more variables here, and these are going to be of the int type, which means they are truly integers and they're numbers. Integers specifically are whole numbers. I'm not going to deal with decimals just by choice. I could use any mathematical variable type here, like double, decimal, or floats. So I will say int let me back up. Side A is equal to int 32 dot parse number 1. What does the word parse mean? Yes. To make it different, and in this case in programming it means to convert. Okay? So we are now on this line of code here converting variable 1 to a number. You'll notice in C#, at least in Visual Studio, what does the green indicate? It indicates that that is a class that is being used. You didn't make the int32 class, but another programmer made it for you, and you're now using it. What does parse indicate? Because it's got a parenthesis in front of it. It is a method, or in C# they often call them functions. They're synonyms of one another. Parse here is our function. So the parse function, you and I did not make that function. Another programmer made it for us. So we don't know how it does its job, but we're able to use it. Okay, just like having an actual tool in a toolbox. We don't necessarily know how they made the hammer, but we just get to use the hammer. Okay? This class comes from the system library up here at the top. Okay, so that's why all these using lines are up here, because they allow us to bring in other classes and other functions that have been made by another programmer. Copy line 27 and paste it. We need it 2 more times. And I'm going to change this variable to side B. This variable to side C. Anybody have any idea what we're getting ready to make this do? And we'll see here in a second. We'll take some of that algebra, geometry knowledge and put it to use. Now, I do need to update my variables here in the parentheses that I want converted. If not, you'll get a logic error. Again, we said syntax errors means nothing is typed improperly according to Visual Studio. It will compile. Logic error means it'll compile, but it just will give you data that doesn't make sense or doesn't meet your requirements. So if these all said number 1, it'd give you an answer, but it wouldn't be the right one. Okay, so it's really important that you make sure that your equations and you're converting the right variables. So this should say ABC. This should say 1, 2, 3. Alright, then I will say int sum is equal to side A plus side B plus side C. Okay, this is my equation using the converted variables. So now that I have converted variables that are truly of mathematical value, I'm able to use those in an equation. I would not have been able to use string variables because they're not seen as math. You would actually get an error. And while we're on the topic of using converted variables, in an equation, all of the variables have to be of the same type of variable. So side B, side A, side C, those are all int variables, so therefore I can assign them to an int variable. I can't assign floats to a int variable, or a double to a float, or an int variable. Lastly, let's output our data, or as I should say maybe our solution, to the user. So I will say console.writeLine perimeter of triangle is plus sum. And that will allow us to output our data.